Hi, I'm Tom Doctoroff, your host for iTV-Asia's Advertising and Marketing segment. With me today is Sam Flemming. Hi, Sam.
Hey.
Sam is the head of CIC. Could you do me a favor? Just tell me a little bit about yourself and your company. Just give us the broad strokes.
Okay, sure. I've been in Asia since 1992. Been in China since 1996. Did some PR work in the late 90s in China. Then about 3 years ago, set up CIC. And CIC, we help companies listen to BBS and blog messages.
Wait, a lot of these people that are viewing aren't part of the new digital generation, perhaps. Right?
Okay.
But what do you mean by BBS?
Okay. Well, BBS is it's another term for online message boards, and they're sort of like blogs, but in the sense that it's online communities where people can post questions or post topics or conversations, then other people can write replies. And so it's sort of like it's an online discussion forum, if you will.
I see. But could we back up just a little bit? First of all, you're American, right?
Yep.
Right, so corn-fed, raised on a farm?
Yep, born and bred.
But say again what your company does. Like, give us the big picture about what do you mean listen to?
Okay, sure. Well, essentially on what we're saying, BBS and blogs, there's a lot of talk. Okay, when we say talk, that means that there are consumers who are writing messages. Okay, and you can write a message and say that, hey, this company's product is really good, okay, or this company's product is really bad, and anyone can publish or post that message to be seen by anyone and everyone on the internet.
So there's a lot of conversation going on the internet, digitally, by actively engaged consumers, and you're saying that your company is capable of actually monitoring and measuring what is being said. And is that, do I have it right?
Yep, you got it. And the important thing to understand too is that these are all, we're not breaking into any communities or anything like that. These are all, it's all publicly available information. Oftentimes, if you do a Google search for a company, one of the, a topic from a BBS or from a blog will come up in the top 10 results.
Now, explain a little bit, why is this important for us as marketers? Say you're Coke, or say you're Pepsi, or say you're Nike. Why is it important to know what the consumers are saying to you, saying about you on the web?
Okay. Well, first of all, when we see it as, basically it's consumer insight. There are a lot of people talking about you. Don't you want to know what they're saying? And it's market research. I mean, it allows you to understand your consumers much better. Even more, these are not just your average consumers. These are consumers who are the most engaged, most connected, most influential consumers out there, because not only are they talking or sharing their opinions, but they're sharing opinions which are published to the web, so that can be found via search engines, or which can be found when anyone goes into a community looking for more information. So it's information, it's market research, or it's consumer insight, but also it's a media which can influence perception or opinions about your company or your brand.
Okay, so on one hand, it's insight. On the other hand, you're talking to the edge of the innovation curve, is what I hear you saying. But can you make this still a little bit more concrete for me? Give me an example of a case that you've had in your company where you've been monitoring something that's been said on the web, or measuring it, or consolidating it, and how a company can use that.
Okay, sure. Well, for example, one of the industries we track is the automobile industry. Okay, automobile industry in China, we collect about 5 million messages every month written by consumers, okay, about automobiles.
Wow. Okay. We're going to come back to that in just a second in terms of how in the world you have the technology to do that. But let's put that on hold for just a second. Let's get back to the insights and the actionability that you gleaned.
Okay, so we can collect all those messages, and then we've developed the tools which can automatically categorize those messages. So every month I can deliver reports to clients which can tell them basically their buzz share or their buzz volume. How many people talked about their models that month? Okay, and so that's an indication of sort of the health of the brand. Okay.
So quantity in terms of share of blog buzz or share of web buzz.
Yeah, share of voice and
share of voice
PR
in the digital universe.
Yeah.
But do you have any way of saying whether that buzz is positive, negative, the content of that buzz, you know, and whether you can shape the buzz?
Definitely. I mean, we tell our clients that we can help tell you how much talk there is, what they're saying, what does it mean, and what should you do. And so for every automobile that we track or every model, we will also categorize this message. What are they saying? Are they talking about the interior? Are they talking about the exterior? If they're talking about the interior, are they talking about the DVD system? Or are they talking about stereo? And then we also have sentiment analysis, which can go in and categorize if the messages are positive or negative.
Let's go back to the specific case that we were talking about. All right, so you started off by saying you track the automobile category.
Right.
Can you give me a nugget of insight that you have gleaned that also could be used to impact broader communications or strategies?
Sure. One example is we were tracking messages around one particular model, and we found that there were a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk about the oil pump. Okay.
Oil pump.
Yep. Which ordinarily people don't talk about oil pumps online, but this model had a lot of talk, and so we dug deeper and we found that there were a number of consumers who were complaining the oil pump was not working. One consumer took his car to get fixed, found out from the dealer or from the service shop that the oil pump was had a manufacturer fault, and that likely it was going to need to be recalled. Okay, and so everyone, and this is all happening on that particular model's community. Okay, so it's filled with people who own that car, who are interested in owning that car. And so people became, on the community, became very angry. If you will. And it wasn't until about a month and a half later that the manufacturer actually issued a recall for the oil pump. But not before the owners and the fans of the car felt like they were left out in the cold. And so we see that as an example of how information is shared very quickly, okay? And so brands need to understand that they can't keep secrets. Okay, they need to keep people in the loop.
So this is a very pragmatic, red flag example of something that's bubbling up from the consumer.
Yep.
What about another example, which sounds extremely useful? I mean, a great information coming, but on a brand image level. Okay, so for example, whether or not, say, Ford Motors is succeeding at becoming more excitement-oriented. I mean, can you operate on that level, or is it more specific in terms of?
No, we can. I mean, we can measure sort of the emotions or the feelings around a brand or a product. Okay, so we just did a study recently for one brand that they had.
Which, of course, you can't mention.
Can't do that.
Okay. Nobody's listening.
But we found that it was actually for a perfume, and the perfume was seen as the classic. The number one term mentioned around that perfume was classic. Whereas for another perfume, the talk was more about bold and sexy. Okay, and so there was, you could definitely get a sense of the different feeling or the different personalities around the brand.
Tell me about the technology that is involved to be able to measure and define the shape of this buzz. How in the world you do it? I mean, I can think of so many different barriers. There's Chinese. There's the fact that all this information needs to be codified and then segmented. How do you deal with the technological aspects? Is there something proprietary to it, or is it really something that any company can do?
It's not easy, and definitely, we've been working on it for the last couple of years, and we've developed some proprietary tools that will allow us to collect millions of messages, for certain industries, and also allow us to, as you say, codify or to categorize. And some of the challenges, for example, in what we say the text mining or the categorization, is the Chinese language. We've developed it specifically for the Chinese language. But the Chinese language is very rich, it's very complicated. The things like word segmentations, how words are split. Okay. Also now in China...
I think that's an important small point. When you say words that are split, can you please explain that for the audience?
Yeah, things like in Chinese you can say 重, or you can say 重要. Okay. 重 is heavy. Okay. 重要is important. Okay?
So what I hear you saying is that every character has a context to it, right? So let's get back to the technology and how you possibly manage, understanding that contextual challenge.
Okay. Well, that's the secret sauce.
Oh,
So
it's a secret sauce.
can't tell you too much about that. Okay. But it is challenging.
And you can really do it?
Of course.
Okay.
And I think there's another aspect that I think it's pretty interesting is the net language or the slang that's online. There's so much creativity online, and people are playing with the language, and so there are terms like for example, there's in English on MSN or like on blogs, whatever, people might write LOL for laugh out loud. They're exactly the same kind of terms for Chinese, and even for industry, like automobile industry, the Volkswagen Polo, the nickname is pineapple, because the Chinese for polo, bolo, sounds like the word for pineapple, bolo. And that's even there are fan clubs for the polo, and the symbol or the icon for the fan club is the pineapple.
Really?
Right. And so I think it gives you a sense of, well, first of all, how difficult the text mining can be, because we continually have to keep up with this kind of stuff and make sure that we have it in our tools so we can guarantee accuracy and coverage. But also it gives you a sense of how fun and creative people are online, and it really keeps us busy, but keeps us really excited about what's happening.
Okay, so let's broaden the topic of this discussion just a little bit, because you keep on mentioning things like creativity, community. Describe for our audience the nature of the digital audience in China, and whether there's anything that is specifically Chinese about it, or whether it's just common to all nations.
Right. Well, I think in terms of the online population, I mean, you still see it centered around Tier 1, Tier 2 cities. Okay, but it is being spread out to Tier 3, Tier 4, because people can get online now, not just having a PC at home. Okay, but there are net bars or net cafes where people can get online. Also, more and more people getting online via their mobile phone. Okay, so eventually, I think it's this year or next year, it's predicted that more people will be online in China via mobile phone than PC. So the 137 million internet users in China, and it's number 2 in the world, and it's growing very rapidly. In terms of what makes it unique, or the unique aspects, I think our particular focus is on online communities.
Please define online community before we go on.
Okay, online community. The best example is what we've been talking about. Is a BBS site or BBS forum. Give you an example. There's one site talking about automobiles called Xcar. Okay, and that has millions of messages being written every month by hundreds of thousands of people. Okay, and it's all about automobiles. These are automobile fans, or practically speaking, automobile owners. Okay, or people who are interested or aspiring to buy an automobile. And so there's a whole community where people are sharing information and sharing ideas.
So of every interest, every size, shape, or form, everything from fish to go-kart racing to cars to the polo club, you were finding clusters of communities that are unified by a common orientation.
Yep, because that's the amazing thing on the internet, is you can find anybody with the same interest. And it doesn't matter where you are, how old you are, how much money you make, you can get online and you can find people that have the same interest as you, and that's, if it's something in common, it gives you something to talk about.
And I don't want to make this a sales pitch for your company.
No, go ahead, it's okay.
But you have a way of being able to find where those communities are, and then within that, measure the buzz. So you can target the people that are most relevant to marketers, and as opposed to just have, listening to the entire universe.
Exactly. I mean, these are the people, as I said before, the most interested, most engaged, most influential about it, whatever topic it is that they're talking about.
Okay, but then I digressed again. So let's get back to what makes the web in China unique, or the digital audience.
Well, I think in the, in the West, you hear all this talk about, MySpace and Facebook and social networking, and now MySpace is in China, and this is big news. To us, it's not big news. This is where this online community and social networking is the new hot thing in the West. It's kind of always been around in China.
Why? Why culturally has it developed so robustly in China?
That's a really good question, and we have debated that internally, and we don't have the definite answer. But I think part of it is it all comes down to a lot of it's information and entertainment. Okay, information. I think traditionally in China, for various reasons, there was not a lot of information available. Okay, information was controlled, or is controlled.
In order to construct a harmonious society.
Exactly. Okay, and on BBS communities, people can find the topics they're interested in, share information from people that they have various connections or various interests, or it all comes down to word of mouth.
Okay, so one reason why web-based communities are particularly prevalent in China is freedom of expression and information.
Yep, exactly. I mean, there are obvious limitations to that, but especially among non-political or sensitive topics, there is a lot of interest and a lot of sharing of information. Just it's word of mouth. I mean, word of mouth is a very powerful concept. Now it's moved online. It's what we call internet word of mouth. Okay, and I think more and more you're seeing that entertainment, especially our opinion is that TV in China is not necessarily appealing to everybody.
What do you mean by that specifically? No, let's be direct here.
Okay.
I think that we're not going to be censored. What do you mean not appealing to everybody? Because I have a feeling this might be an important point.
Well, I think that the variety of programming on Chinese television is limited. So you tend to see similar kind of talk shows or the similar kind of news programs. There's not a lot of variety, whereas in the West you may have 100, 150 channels, all about any number of topics and all kinds of different options.
So due to government control of the media, there tends to be a regression to the mean, where everything is blanded out, is what I hear you saying.
Yeah, I don't know how. I'm not a media expert, but I can.
You watch TV.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I've been here, and it's not as even it's not just me. I mean, I think my colleagues and other young white collars in China would likely agree. And so, but what does that have to do with the uniqueness or unique aspects of the internet in China? Oh, well, I think people are finding entertainment online. I think we had discussed before, is there, what's the line, or is there a conflict between traditional media and this new media? And I think that people are watching television, but they're watching television online now. And so some of the most popular television shows online are actually American shows like 24, Prison Break, okay? And those shows can be downloaded anytime by anyone. And of course, there are questions of intellectual property, but
let's not go there right now.
But it's being done. And so you ask any young person just about especially white collar in Shanghai, in Beijing, ask them if they've seen Prison Break. They'll say yes. And Prison Break has not been on TV. So people are looking for more entertainment options online.
I've also thought that because China is sort of a regimented society, people don't feel so open and easy to express themselves in the real world. So in the virtual world, there's this anonymous self-expression, which makes it much more of a release and a liberation.
Yep.
Do you think that makes consumers' involvement with the web even greater?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that statement. I mean, BBS in particular, it is anonymous. You don't have to put your name, and even compared to a blog where of course you can sign up with a fake name, but it's still about my individual opinion. It's sort of my soapbox. And you can comment on my blog, but really I'm controlling the conversation. Whereas BBS, it's more open. It's by definition, it's a forum, and people, I think, have the freedom, and with that freedom, liberation to express what they want to express.
So, in terms of the media scene, okay, and I know that you're not a media expert, or that's what you said before the interview, but do you see digital playing a more and more important role, competing against, say, mass media, television?
I think mass media is exactly that. It's mass. It's the most efficient, effective way to get one message out to lots of people. I think with digital, the strength is the ability to target. Okay, you're not going to necessarily get the message out to everyone online, but you can find the find the communities or find the niche sites that are focused on your particular topic of interest. And so I think that's the real difference.
So, can you say that the web is more active consumption of information, whereas mass media is more passive consumption?
Yeah, exactly. I think the mass media it's being forced. You're
forced
or spoon-fed. Spoon-fed.
Boy, those aren't very friendly words. But do you think that
that's true all over the world?
But do you think that mass media is always going to be necessary to forge impressions of brands? Is there ever an example of a brand that has been created, an image that has been born on the web, and then made broadly aware to?
Yeah, I think you can look at what we talked before about entertainment. Actually, there's a whole cottage industry of internet stars, or net stars. People, you have some of the most famous ones are like the Backdoor Boys, who lip sync Backstreet Boys songs, and so these are stars created by the people for the people. They get famous online via blogs or via conversations on BBS or video sharing sites like YouTube or the local versions like Tudo. And those guys in particular now are mass media stars. But of course they became mass media stars because they got on mass media. But why did they get on mass media? Because they became so well known on the internet media. I mean on BBS and blogs.
So that sounds very yin and yang.
Yeah, I mean I think it definitely. I mean companies come to us and they say, how can we create buzz? And it's like, well, first you got to have an interesting product, okay? But second, I mean, if you want to create buzz or you want to at least create awareness, television is great. I mean, if you can get an article in a newspaper or featured on a news program or TVC, people will definitely be aware of you. But that's also very difficult to do, very expensive, or at least very expensive to do. Especially for TVCs. And so if your product is more niche oriented, okay, or you don't have the budgets, you can go to the internet for a more targeted approach.
So we can harness this new era of consumer empowerment through our brands by appreciating the active nature of web consumption and involvement.
I need to hire you as a spokesperson. Yeah, I think that's a good way to start.
So, anything else you want to chat about?
I think you've done a pretty good job covering the topics.
All right. So I'd like to thank you, Sam Flemming, owner and founder of CIC, a breakthrough company in the market, really. I mean, I think it's spectacular, the vision that you guys have, and that's just my humble opinion. But congratulations on your success to date, and thank you for coming on in.
Okay, thanks.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.